We saw Murder on the Oriental Express.
Hell yeah!
Orient. It's just Orient. I said Oriental.
That's racist.
It's not racist if you're talking about an object.
So Orientals are objects to you now? I'm joking.
What?
Let's go.
Yeah, this one was pretty good.
I'm glad you liked it, because I was pumped for this.
It was a...
Slower.
Not even really slower. See, with Blade Runner, my biggest problem with Blade Runner was that it was slow. Because we didn't even do a video on that. So let me touch on that real quick. I didn't like Blade Runner that much. It was a fantastic movie. Just wasn't for me. Just was a little too slow for my taste. Mm-hmm. This movie, while it was a slower paced film, it wasn't like 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, it was a pretty short film.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty short movie. Probably a little under 2 hours. Yeah, it was paced perfectly for me. I wasn't bored.
It was more about the intrigue than it was about things actually happening. It was trying to figure out what just happened.
Yeah, because they're finding out like clues and shit throughout the entirety of the movie. Mm-hmm. There's never real downtime. They're always finding out something new.
That's actually as a preface, Summer did not read the book before watching the movie. I read the book and finished it yesterday before watching the movie, and I love the book and I love the movie, and I just wanted to say that the movie made the pacing a little bit more quick, I think. In the book, there was a lot of polite conversation that just happened in between, and it was more character building and world building, and also clues were a lot more hidden in the book. Uh-huh. There's certain things that like characters will say, and you're like, oh shit, that's going to be important, and it is. But in the book, these characters say so much that you miss things.
Yeah. And
that's kind of cool, but for the brevity of the movie, I think it makes more sense for a movie to be that way. I wasn't upset about that. They also added in a chase scene at one point.
Yeah, they did.
And the whole gunshot scene.
That didn't happen in the book?
No.
Yeah, I figured. I wasn't sure about the gunshot scene, but the chase scene definitely, I felt like that was added in for the movie. It just felt like, oh, that's happening now. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Poirot. I like his OCD thing he's got going on. It wasn't prevalent in the book, but there was like a hint of he liked things orderly. Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily an imbalance. He's obsessed with balance in this movie. It's a lot more. The movie does take things to more extremes.
Yeah, I mean, everything else I really have to say about it is kind of a spoiler, so...
Do you want to get on with the spoiler review?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Alright, spoilers. My favorite twist ending. Everybody did it. Everybody. All of them. Same in the book.
See, I thought it was a little too convenient that literally everybody on the train had something to do with that murder case from however long ago. Mm-hmm. So yeah, something was obviously up there.
Yeah, and I like the idea that like throughout the book they were also like at the beginning they're like, we'll find you a seat. It's the deadest time of the year, and the entire thing's full.
Yeah.
And the 12 stab wounds tell 12 people in the cabin.
Yeah.
There's a lot of foreshadowing that, again, in the book, it's actually kind of subtle. And it makes you kind of feel, I don't know, in the movie, I don't know, it feels a little more like the director wasn't trying to necessarily... Agatha Christie likes to trick her audience a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels kind of like bullshit. But in this movie, they kind of give you ample foreshadowing, I think. It's a little more in your face.
Once it was revealed what actually happened, it all made sense.
Yeah. And, like, the whole... They were conspiring... And that's why all their alibis matched up and made everyone innocent, is because they were in it together. They also humanized Poirot a lot more than in the book. In the book, he's just kind of... They do make a mention of, like, you know... There's a part where Monsieur Bouc, who is, you know, Poirot's sultry friend who owns... Well, in this, his dad owns it. He owns the Orient Express. In the book, I think he owns it. Anyways, he's good friends with Poirot, and he's getting pissed off that they can't find any answers in the book. And he's asking Poirot, he's like, "You're the super genius, who did it?" And Poirot's like, "I know just as much as you. I'm just not flipping off the handle because I've been through this. I've been in this situation where nothing makes sense, and I have to try to figure out how to make it make sense."
Yeah.
Like, Poirot is much more patient than Book. In this movie, they made it feel a lot more like he was, like, almost giving up on the case. And I think that humanized him a little more. It made him seem less like it was just another... In the book, it feels like just another case for him.
Yeah.
In this movie, it feels a lot more like this is the biggest case for him. And it's the one that changes his morality. Which, in the book, he does mention, like, I would never do this on a case before, but I'm going to let all of you go because I find it justified. In this movie, they made a much more bigger deal, which I'm actually really happy that they did.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good change.
Making him, like, morally conflicted on whether or not he should rat out everybody, because, I mean, and another thing I like is both the book and the movie, the whole Cassetti Armstrong murder case. That's, like, the only... It's a believable murder case, well, because it's based off of one that did happen, the Charles Lindbergh baby. It's just the idea that, like, all these people who would not kill otherwise, it's because little baby Daisy was killed.
Yeah.
And that, like, it has to be something horrific to really push him over the edge, and I think the death of a child is really... And the movie never makes it, like... The movie nor the book makes it seem like it's like, look how edgy we are, we killed a kid. They make it seem like this is the greatest tragedy that could behold.
Yeah.
You know, it destroys so many lives. I don't know. I love the book, and I think that this movie is a great adaptation of it. What did you think without any connection to the book?
I mean, I thought, yeah.
You thought it was a good mystery?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm actually glad you liked it.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, I wasn't bored at all. All the actors were ranged from fine to great.
Yeah. I think, like, the worst actors in the movie were probably, I think, the Italian guy, but at the same time, he wasn't bad.
In it, like, hardly at all, really.
Yeah, he was a little bigger in the... Well, he was, like, the prime suspect in the book. But
why?
His reasoning was a lot... They kind of make fun of it in the movie, or at least point it out. But the fact that he's Italian is the biggest reason. They say, who would stab a man 12 times? And it's like, the Italians are fiery, and then, you know, the mafioso, and...
Oh, okay.
Like, that's like... And Poirot is like... Well, and Book is like... And Monsieur Book and Dr. Constantine, who's a character that didn't really appear in the movie. They had a different doctor, who was also a suspect, who was a colonel in the book. But in the movie, they made him a doctor who used to be a colonel. So that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, they kept the character without... But, like... They're both like, yeah, Italians love to stab. Like, a British person would shoot him, but an Italian person would stab, like, over and over again.
Of course.
And Poirot is like, I'm not saying it's not possible. Like, he's like, he doesn't want to jump to conclusions. He's not saying, he's like, oh yes, Italians do stab, but maybe somebody else did it so it looked like an Italian.
It's not mutually exclusive, however.
Yeah. And, a big thing in the book that they stressed, but they didn't stress it in this movie, was the reason that there was, like, so many people from different countries in that household was because it was America. The melting pot. That was a big thing. And especially...
Right. You were telling me about how Agatha Christie loved that whole melting pot America thing.
Even though it wasn't as big as she thought it was.
Right, but she didn't know. She was not
British.
American.
And I also, like... I love how they did... In the movie also... brought forward the idea that, like, all these people are like oh, this is, you know, I love people of all races. Those Italians, though, like, like, they, like, that happens so many times in the book where people casually say something about someone from another nation, but it's not like it's racism in the 30s, so you get, like, a very different racism. And I actually read a review before this. Someone complained that they changed Colonel Abernaugh's race for this movie. And first off, the first thing the book says is he's dark-skinned. I just took that as he's English and in India. I personally took that as he was Indian.
Right.
By race, but, spoke with a British accent. He lived in England. And that
personally, when I read that someone has dark skin, I picture an Indian.
Or a black person.
Well, not even usually a black person. I don't know, it depends on the context.
Okay, yeah. Well, they were saying he was a dark-skinned British officer in India, and I was just like, okay, so he's of Indian
I
birth.
would picture an Indian.
Yeah, and so people are complaining that... one person complained that they changed his race. I don't think they changed his race. I think they made it a bigger deal in the movie, though. They definitely, mentioned his race a lot more. And I think, again, this is more the difference between Agatha Christie making this kind of more fantastical cultural feeling. All the racism in the book is between countries, nations.
Yeah.
Which again, back then, that was a bigger deal too.
Of course.
If someone was from another country, what country are they from? That's the biggest deal. Yeah, but this, I think this movie was a little less. I think it had a little. I don't want to say more jaded or cynical view. Actually, probably just more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
A few. I forgot what I was gonna say. Evidence was compared to this from the book. It was a little more. I think it was. We got a flush of evidence right after, real evidence after the murder, and it felt like it took forever to get real evidence in the book. Again, worked in the book. The movie did it a different way. That worked too.
Yeah. I
felt like this is an adaptation that changes necessary elements. I do think the chasing was a little unnecessary, but at the same time, it didn't hurt the film.
Yeah, it's quick.
It's very
quick.
It's like
a 30-second scene, so I mean, it really doesn't detract anything. It's just there. I liked the whole moral debate at the end. I thought that was interesting. I liked how it all panned out.
Remember how I told you I liked the ending, but I wasn't sure about what happened after who was revealed?
Yeah.
It was weirdly he just kind of brushed it off almost. It was just, it ended right after the accusal and him going, you know what, you're all free to go. They added in that whole test of, where he put the unloaded gun on the table.
Yeah.
That was not in the book at all. So her shooting herself, that wasn't in the book at all. They made Miss Hubbard a much more sympathetic character. She was already sympathetic in the book. Her granddaughter was, murdered at the age of 3. And her daughter was killed. And she lost another granddaughter in the mischief. In the miscarriage. But yeah, there's something they took out of the book that I wish they kept in.
What?
Well, no, they put it in the movie, but it was less stressed. She talks about her daughter a lot.
Mm.
She has 2 daughters. One of them's on the train, the other one's dead. Because of the Armstrong case.
Right.
So throughout the movie, she's talking about her daughters and her granddaughter. And throughout the book. In the book, it just seems like she's oh, wait till my daughter hears about this. And it's just seen as a funny little quirk of the older American woman.
Yeah. And
then you find out all this tragic shit. And it's definitely a retro, because they never really stress that after the fact you learn. But once you realize that that she keeps talking about her daughter and her granddaughter and what had actually happened to them.
Yeah.
It's just damn. But yeah, I like how they portrayed Mrs. Hubbard, aka, spoiler alert, Linda Arden.
Yeah.
Aka Linda Goldberg. God, everyone had so many names. Oh, another thing they did was Cyrus Hardman, who was the detective, who used to be a police officer on the Armstrong case. The funny thing is, he, in the book, he just straight up goes by his normal name and nationality. He's like, I'm an American named Cyrus Hardman. And he's like, you're a liar. And he's like, all right, I'm an American detective named Cyrus Hardman. And this one, he had a whole cover. And I was like, that's so much better. And they got Willem Dafoe to play him, too, so that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
And when I heard that Willem Dafoe play that character, in my head, he was playing the character in Yeah, I made a few changes. I mean, Dr. Constantine wasn't even in this, and in my head he was Tim Curry.
Oh well.
Because he was Greek, but he spoke with a British accent, I think. I may be wrong, but yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
It's a great movie.
Have anything else to say?
I loved it. I love this adaptation. I have 2 more adaptations to watch. But I think, honestly, yeah, it was I read a lot of negative reviews for this, but I think, I don't know, I definitely feel, even from a critical response, that this is a good movie.
Yeah, it's nothing spectacular.
Oh, no.
But, yeah, it's a good movie. It's definitely worth a watch.
I'll admit, if you've read the book, it's even more of a treat. But I will say that even if you haven't seen the book, it's an enjoyable movie. And it's not too long either.
Between this and Daddy's Home 2 this weekend, this is probably the safer bet.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, either this or go see Thor. So, yeah, see you next weekend. We got Justice League coming up.
Oh, God, I can't wait.